Okay, so I'm delighted to be joined again live by Isaac George, musician and spiritual mentor, and also I'm very lucky that you're actually my partner as well. so, so yeah, it's not at all strange to be interviewing my partner, but hey, we will see what happens over the next 30 minutes, and I'm delighted that Isaac's going to be talking to everyone about how to create professional sounding audio for your meditations, videos, and podcasts. And I've had so many requests about coaches and therapists wanting to know about how to do this. So I thought, I know someone who knows all about this. So I'm just going to bring my partner on to talk about the subject. So welcome, Isaac. Delighted to have you here.
Oh, I'm tickled pink to have you interviewing me in your little enclave on, magnetize your clients. This is a wonderful opportunity, and I hope we share some useful information for folks, and that excites your entourage, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think just so that everyone can get to know a bit about you and your work, it might be great if you can say a little bit about your history, particularly with the music side, what you've been doing.
Well, to try to compress all that time into a few sentences is going to be difficult, but I'm going to be very brief. I grew up sort of in a musical family. So my interest in music was sort of embedded, I think, from the moment my dad met my mom, because they met in a record store. He was shopping for classical music. She was behind the counter selling music in this record shop called Speedy's in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So they met in a musical sort of way. He'd come in to listen to new albums, new releases, and they'd chat about jazz, about show tunes, musicals. So then I came along, and my dad was really into classical music and high fidelity audio equipment. This is dating myself, 1950s. So I grew up in an environment with my mom playing piano, both of them listening to Broadway musicals, jazz and classical, and that was the environment I grew up in. So I bored my poor friends in rural Pennsylvania by playing them Dvorak and Saint-Saëns and Beethoven. They thought I was absolutely mad at age 7 listening to this stuff. And I've always had a very emotional connection to music in general. So it was a natural that when I finally heard the song House of the Rising Sun by the Animals at age 16, I desperately wanted to learn how to play electric guitar. And I started playing in garage bands in the middle of the first British invasion time, and played local gigs and so forth, and slowly honed my chops from being a rhythm player to learning how to play lead guitar. And I was very active in the music scene in my hometown until the mid-70s, and then moved to the West Coast, to Oregon, and was sort of dormant for about 6 years, and then started getting back into it again. It's like music is sort of like a wonderful addiction. You can't get away from it once it's in your blood. And over the next 15 years, I got involved with 3 other bands, actually 5, and also took the helm in producing our demos. So I got to spend time on the inside of the recording studio, being a member of bands, recording, and then being behind the desk with the engineer, listening to the tracks, listening to the mixes, and getting a feel for what it's like to be on the other side of the glass. So through the background of all this, I was really a student of spirituality and metaphysics, and I came to understand music as a medium of expression and language that's nonverbal. Yes, there are lyrics in music and so forth, but it wasn't just the lyrics that excited me or poems. It was the music itself had a language all of its own. And it's a universal language. And in the words of the seer and channel Edgar Casey, otherwise known as America's Sleeping Prophet, he called music as the bridge between the finite and the infinite. And so there are rhythmic elements, melodic elements, harmonic elements, but basically when you go to a festival or you go to a club or any situation like that, music is something we all recognize and respond to. And it's a second language that underpins and supports a lot of other things, whether it's opera or pop music or the blues. It adds expressiveness to the human voice. It adds so much to bringing people together in unity. World Music did that for Peter Gabriel and his World Studios project in the 80s. Otherwise, we would have never been exposed to the music of Africa and Northern Africa. We've never been exposed to Indonesian music. And so it is a way that cuts across all the boundaries and helps us to drop our guard against the unknown. And so for me, music is a very emotional, spiritual medium, no matter what it's applied to. So that's how I got into music. Now, I started doing my own home recording stuff in 2006, put the bullet and bought a bespoke built computer system from Into Audio in Coventry, England, and started slowly learning how to record music, process sound, and being able to do mixes and mastering, and eventually produce my own personal, CD collection of ambient meditation music in 2010. And then started working with other clients in Ireland who wanted to add music and professional production effects to their voice for different meditations. Worked with a coach in Galway, Ireland, who is a birth coach for people who couldn't conceive naturally, and also led them through the entire process to the actual birth of their child. And she created a whole series of meditations for visualizations, for healing, for helping the couple actually come into a place where they would be new parents. So that was my first project. Then I did some projects with you, and this has always been sort of in the periphery. I mean, I've been front and center as a spiritual mentor, an intuitive mentor, as a channel, as a Reiki master healer, and it never really dawned on me that I would make much of a career in music. After my spiritual awakening in '94. I used it as an adjunct. I started doing meditations live in Sedona, for example, at the request of other people in their presentations to actually perform live and do a guided meditation based entirely on music, no words, single electric guitar with digital effects, and take people inwards into deep places that we think about or dream about in our other states, so to speak. Relaxation, yes. Meditation, yes. But also an expansion of the heart. So again, I keep coming back to the emotional or feeling element of music as a way to unify and to heal. And that's what I hope people get out of listening to what, the old genre was called New Age. Now we call it ambient or relaxation music. The music venue, for example, that was a big inspiration for me. And also the ambient electronic guitarist David Helpling. Pink Floyd's David Gilmour was an early inspiration for me, as was Andy Summers of the Police. They were texturalists. They created atmospheres and feelings and moviescapes for the mind. And I've always been sort of visual in that way, but on the inside, and in the heart. So music creates pictures for me. I think it creates pictures for a lot of people, or evokes moods or emotions or memories, much as the same way smell can. Smell is a very powerful sense, and apparently at death, it's the last sense that we lose in the death process. But audio is very strong signature in our experience. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, so you've got a long history in music, and then also kind of combining your spirituality with then creating meditation music as well. I know you were in a rock band for many years, for about 20 years.
Various bands in all genres, jazz, fusion, rock, classic rock, pop. I was in a 9-piece band with 3-piece horn section, did funk soul, a la Motown in Detroit. Did a lot of gigs as a blues musician, lots and lots of different bands as a blues musician, straight ahead blues, Mississippi blues, Chicago blues.
Yeah.
So a lot of that kind of stuff, and then started getting into that ambient stuff, that real spacey guitar stuff, back in the mid '90s, and it's very spontaneous. And there's a couple of pieces on my CD that are done in that way. That's very expansive with guitar, just solo guitar.
Beautiful.
So all good.
Beautiful. So I'm just going to welcome people who are joining us right now, because I'm starting to see people cropping up on the Facebook page. So if you've just joined us, welcome. I'm talking to Isaac George about all things audio, really, and we are going to get into the main section of getting some teaching points for you around audio as well. Welcome, Joanne, and yeah, thank you for your comment as well. We will definitely be taking questions as well, so we will cover that. And yeah, and so Joanne is saying that she loves her relationship with music, Isaac, and she finds it very powerful, and she wants to record meditation music. So maybe this is a good place to start, with asking you about the audio side.
Okay.
Yeah, like what would you recommend, if a coach or therapist is interested in just kind of getting started with creating their own meditation?
Okay.
How can they go about doing that? What's sort of an easy few steps that they can take?
There's some stuff that people can self coach themselves. Doing meditation music or guided meditations with music is not something that's a service that's easily offered. And a lot of people will say, well, what do I do about the music stuff? There's a lot of copyright stuff out there. Mm-hmm. But the first place you got to start is, what is your concept, your theme? What is it that you want to elicit or get people to feel into? Mm-hmm. So you have to sit down and really sort of meditate about the meditation and meditate about what speaks the highest and strongest vibe in you about getting your idea on paper. So writing out a script is the first thing I would recommend. Sometimes people just like to wing it. They turn on the record on their phone, or they turn on the record on their home system, their laptop or whatever, or a handheld recorder, an MP3 recorder, and they just go for it. They just start feeling whatever it is they want to say, and they do that. And they become, this can become the basis of creating a guided meditation, or the basis of creating a script for a video presentation or a tutorial. So organization is good, but spontaneity is also good. So I would say it's a combination of the two. Whatever you spontaneously feel to do, experiment. Now, how can you record? Well, you can record on one of these, You can use your built-in microphone. The microphones, by the way, in the iPhone or Apple products are much better than what are found typically in an Android phone. So that's your simple little portable recording studio, really, right there, any kind of iPhone. And if you're using, I always recommend, if possible, use the headset, because the microphone that's closer to your mouth, other than holding the phone right in front of your face, which is not good, you're not going to get what I call, or what the industry calls, good signal to noise ratio. There's going to be more ambient or background noise competing with your vocal volume. So the closer that you can, without scruffling the wire, hold the microphone to your mouth and be still with that, and talk clearly and slowly and distinctly, the better type of recording you're going to get. Now, you don't want to have the thing right up against your mouth, because you get what is called the proximity effect. And you'll get these p every time you say a p word, or a t when you say t, or when you say something with an s or a c in it. And those kind of noises, those plosives and sibilants, is something that drives an audio engineer absolutely nuts, because you have to try to remove those from the dialogue in order for the listener, the end user, to enjoy it. So that's your first recording. That's your most least expensive. Now, if you don't have an Android or an iPhone, you can use a headset going into a laptop or into an iPad. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of really good free downloadable software that you can get for home recording. One of them is Audacity. Mm-hmm. It's a free download, installs on any platform. Audacity is one. Total Recorder is another, although the professional version is much better. It's a one-time, I think, subscription of like £24 or something for a lifetime ownership of Total Recorder. I use on the laptop things a little more sophisticated called Sony Audio Forge. That's a good recording element. But these are free software packages. Don't expect them to sound super professional, but they'll do the job. And you can record in what is known as WAV format, which is a Microsoft format that is the industry standard for CD quality sound. or you can record directly into MP3. Everybody's familiar with MP3 because Spotify and downloading and everything. So those two formats are probably the most popular. WAV files are very big, and they use up a lot of memory, and so they don't stream very well. That's why the MP3 format came into being. So MP3 compresses the audio, so your voice will not sound as natural or as full-flavored, full-figured, as it were, compared to a CD, because it's squashing the high and low frequencies into a file size that can be streamed live over the internet. So there are a number of there are 5 or 6 other major industry formats, but for the end user, for the amateur, it's not worth going into.
Yeah.
So those are the simple ways you can get started in practicing. And believe me, practice makes perfect. Pre-production, if you were to work with me, I would run you through the mill to practice your scripts, practice your production techniques at home before sending a rough file of your voiceover to me to work with, because the better, higher volume of voice, lower ambient sound of don't record in the kitchen. Record in a nice, soft, furnished environment where there are less reflections than a room like this.
What kind of environment would you recommend then for someone who is doing their recording at home? What is the best environment?
Well, actually, I found out from a new client, one of the best effects you can have is if you have a newer model car, go sit in a car on an empty, deserted road. Because that forms a very non-acoustically live environment, is sitting in like, a nice car with good soundproofing, somewhere away from everything, where there's no farm tractors or overflights from Heathrow or anything like that, that you can actually get a decent recording on a phone in that environment.
Yeah.
It's very closed in, it's very quiet. At home, your clothes closet. That's probably the best place you're going to find, because you're in a tiny space. It's kind of like a sound booth in a recording studio where a vocalist would work. You have very few reflective surfaces, a lot of clothing in there. Some people even open the door and throw a whole duvet over the door and then try to shut the door, because as much sound absorption as you can get, the less echo and ambient noise you can get.
Okay, great. And, would you have any advice about the actual headset? This is for doing meditations. Is there, anything around that?
I prefer anything with a wire, because you can get interference from wireless systems or dropouts, and they're never reliable. So whether it's an Android, an iPhone, a laptop, an iPad, or desktop PC, try to use a wired headset. It can be USB, or it can have those little plugs, those little 3.5 millimeter jacks on the end. If you have an older system, they'll have those jacks. The newer ones are all USB. But try to use a wired headset. Check the specs on them, especially if you're going to go on Amazon and shop. The best ones are Logitech, Sennheiser, and you don't have to spend a fortune, but you can if you want a really excellent headset for both your work on Zoom or with your groups or whatever. You can spend up towards to 100 or 200 pounds for an excellent headset, and the headphones set aside of them are good enough to actually work with recording yourself or working with recording software.
So great. So, okay, I know that we're going to have another question, which is going to be really around if you want to put music in the background with your voice on the meditation. Any advice on that front? What can people do, and is this really possible to do yourself? Because having watched you working on clients' meditations for them, and the difference you get, even in oh my God, people's voices, when you work on their voice goes from sounding kind of okay to sounding whoa, this woman has just the most beautiful sounding voice. You just want to curl up inside the voice. Because you do into it, and I'm kind of thinking, is there a way, can people actually do this on their own if they don't have any tech experience?
I would say probably not, because the learning curve, as you can tell from my background, is pretty extensive. If you keep practicing at anything, you're going to get better and better at it. And the better the gear, and the better the recording medium, and the better the environment you do it in, that's great. Now, the music side of it is important. Why? Because it not only adds thematic ambience and supports your dialogue, your theme, but it also is important to recognize there are two types of music that you can use in a meditation or a video sound bed or a podcast, and that is either royalty-free music or bespoke or compositionally copyrighted music.
Yeah.
So the royalty-free means there are royalty-free websites that you can actually buy music beds of various styles, various types, to use in your own projects. I used some of them. A lot of them are not genre specific that really aid a client's work and what they're going for. So I use them to minimally. They work in some situations, or I'll use them in conjunction with some original composition. Sound effects are great, sound of being in the woods with the stream and birds and everything. Those are really great ambiences that you can actually have music going on top of, and then the voice on top of that. Mm-hmm. Now, the only recording software that's free that will work in that idiom, I feel, or I think that will work in a multi-track situation. What is the difference between multi-track? Well, when you're recording your voice, it's usually a single track, okay, in a recording software. If you're going to multi-track, you're going to have one track for the voice, one track for the music, maybe one track for special effects. Then you have to balance or mix the volume levels and the frequencies involved in the mix down process, because you don't want frequencies that are in the music bed to compete with the person's voice. So you have to learn how to edit or EQ, equalize the certain frequencies out of the sound bed or out of the instrument, so that they are not at loggerheads competing with the voice.
Really getting pretty technical, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So how I make that woman's voice sound like honey, it's the honey effect. The honey effect is compression, equalization, and limiting. And then once I've got those ingredients done, then I can add a little reverberation to give space. And it's the space along with the tonal magic that gets that honey effect on it. And you just sink into it and you want to listen to it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can totally understand what you're saying now. And I'm also like really aware that I'm thinking, oh my God, that's a lot to kind of, as a beginner, to try and take in. So I'm just welcoming again, Deirdre, welcome. Good to have you here as well. And Deirdre's question is, she's looked at Audacity, but she doesn't know where to start. Good beginner's guide to it. I mean, Deirdre, I feel for you, and I feel exactly the same way. This is not my area of expertise. As I'm hearing Isaac talk about the different tracks, I'm like kind of going, well, okay.
I kind of think of it as a layer cake or ingredients in a recipe. It's like the balance of the ingredients is important to get the right flavor.
Okay, well now I understand.
Okay.
I think I can get,
Okay.
Okay, but
let me address Deirdre's question.
Yeah.
Audacity is limited in terms of its multi-track functionality. It does have some good basic effects in it. What I mean by effects, being able to fade a track in, fade a track out, boost bass, cut treble, boost mid-range, cut mid-range. I mean, we're talking the frequency spectrum, the audio frequencies human beings can hear, which is from about 40 hertz on the low end of the scale up to about 16 or 18,000 hertz. As we age, we lose high frequencies. So we are not able to hear the upper ranges that younger people can. So usually for a voice track, something between 100 cycles per second, 100 hertz, and 16,000 hertz is perfectly acceptable. The human male voice is somewhere between 1,500 hertz and 5,000. Female voice a little bit higher, about 1,800 hertz, all the way up to about 7,000. So we have that mid-range area. You can compress the entire frequency spectrum to a very small area. And Audacity can do a fairly good job if you want to learn how to work it. I would say get onto YouTube.
Okay.
Put in the word Audacity or Audacity tutorials and see what comes up in the right-hand column. Mm-hmm. Watch a few of these and, or put Audacity multi-track. All right. Some of the other software packages out there that are for beginners are usually bundled in with something else. So Cubase LE, and I use Steinberg Cubase as a professional version. You can see it back there on the monitor. Professional audio version of Cubase, but you can get a beginner's version virtually for free. Cubase LE is one. On Apple platforms, GarageBand is a multi-track recorder, and it's free. It's bundled in with the Apple software on any Apple platform. So GarageBand, I've never used it, is Mac specific, but it works very well as a multi-track platform. So you can add vocal, you can add a music track, or you can compose your own music if you have that aptitude and that talent. And then you can get plenty of tutorials from Apple on how to work GarageBand. I know it's out there. Now, I suppose there's a GarageBand for PC users, but I haven't found it yet that works. But I've heard rumors there is one. So you're not out in left field. There are options for you PC users.
Fab, fab. So I know that people have mentioned to me that they're very interested in how to do the audio for their videos and podcasts. I mean, do you feel like we can talk about that kind of together, or would it be kind of the same?
It's similar, but not identical. So basically, people usually record audio or record a video, whether it's with a phone or with a camcorder, camcorder. My recommendation is, if you're going to use either format, I can recommend, if you're interested, certain microphones that work with camcorders and with mobile devices like iPads and phones that will give you a much higher quality audio level with your video. Why do I say that? Because then you don't have to re-record the audio and match it back to the video later by somebody like me. Because that's what I would do, is I would take your video and I would say, okay, I'm going to mute that original audio track. And now we're going to take a new audio track and match it with the video frames. That's a big job. That's a big job, and very expensive. So that's what people do when they do voiceover for an animated feature film. They have to watch the screen play and mimic or put in the voiceover at the same time. Very hard work, very demanding. So I don't recommend that for the beginner.
Okay, so like if you're doing video, then what would you recommend in terms of gear for that? What's the best microphone to buy? And
there's a company called Rode out of Australia that makes a really good video mic. It's a plug and play. You can plug it right into a camcorder. IK Multimedia makes a number of microphones. So does Zoom, that are great for Android or iPhone. If you're curious, you want information on those microphones, you can contact me by email or through Facebook. The details you have, Shelley. Yeah. And if then you want post-production, i.e. you want to take that video, you want to add a music bed to it because you want that on your homepage of your website, I'm your guy. Because then I can take that video and that dialogue, juice up the dialogue to give it that honey quality, and add a music bed that complements that 1 minute or 2 minute clip. Or maybe it's a whole production, maybe it's a whole 60-minute webinar, whatever. But it's being able to take that raw element, polish it, add the music and the tasty bits that you want, and have that then broadcast out to the world.
Fab. And so if you're doing a video, anything that you should think about when you're doing audio. Now, bear in mind that I am the person who did a Facebook ad using a camcorder outside in the wind and rain without a directional mic, and that was my best converting ad that I ever created. I got so many comments, and you could hear the wind and the rain.
Oh, yeah, but you could still hear you, which was pretty phenomenal considering that built-in mic on the Sony, on the camcorder.
That went so well. So I mean, just so everyone knows, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, I get really horrified sometimes because Facebook throws up these old videos and old Facebook Lives that I've done, and and I'm just like, oh my God, like, did I really do that? But I've never really worried too much about the text. I just go shoot and done. So
I do. Go ahead.
You know me. It's just like, let's just get it done. But for someone who is concerned about getting a good sound and doesn't want wind and rain in the background, kind of what advice would you have?
Again, with the video thing, it's there's two ways to do the audio with the video, if the camera will accommodate it, or if you're going to shoot with your iPhone, get one of these. Get a
Okay, so
lavalier
it's really
microphone.
easy, just a lavalier.
Yeah, this is what you see people being interviewed, newscasters, news personnel doing all the time, is they've got a lavalier on. That's what gives it that wonderful close-in quality. Shotgun mics are the other kind, and that's what I'm recommending typically for somebody who's going to actually be operating the camera on you.
Yeah.
Shotgun mic is basically like a bullet. It's going to pick up the sound in front of it and nothing around it.
Okay.
So, or behind it. So that way the sound is focused directly on you, the sound recording. Yeah, you can get the Rode shotgun mic for video cameras and for about 43 quid, I think, something like that. But it's something that it's a once and done. As long as you can use it for other applications like with your phone, but you would have to put it on a tripod because you don't want to handle these mics while they're actually operating, or you're going to add noise. You're going to hear the from your hands. So it's got to be on some stable platform, either the camera on a tripod or on a tripod on its own. So yeah, get in touch with me if you want good quality recording equipment for your phone, your desktop, your platform, mobile platform, or your camera. Recommendations there, because that is your first line. When you start using the best equipment for recording your voice, then we really got something to work with.
Yeah. So it's a good starting point. You're going to get a better quality. Yeah.
These are 15 quid.
Yeah, I know that you also have that really awesome microphone that we've used when I've done meditations with you, where I feel like I'm some kind of cool singer or something.
Yeah, you are the pop star.
Directional thing, and I'm like, yeah.
Studio condenser mics. When you come here and you record your voiceover track here, you are recording on a 350-pound studio condenser microphone that is designed specifically for vocal work in a professional setting. All right, so it's the diaphragm on it for recording is 24 karat gold. Okay, This is the kind of equipment available to you for the clients who want to have the best outcome, the best result. It's better to come here. It's better to come here, or any studio. You can go to the sound booth at any recording studio near you. Say, I'm going to lay down these vocal tracks. They'll do that for you.
Yeah.
They're going to cost you. They'll charge you per hour to do that. But in my packages, that's an add-on that can be included into the package. So you record your vocal tracks here. We discuss the music beds, post-production effects, and so forth. And then you go off and you wait for me to send through samples. And once you've got the samples approved and you like them, then we do the full production, mix down, and mastering for whatever medium you're going to use it.
Fantastic. So we're going to go into a bit more about your what you offer as well in a bit, and the work you can do for coaches and I'm just wondering if there's anything that you want to mention around the podcasting side, because I kind of said to my group about how podcasting is exploding, and previously it was kind of mainly a US based thing, where there's a lot of popularity of listening to podcasts in the US, but it is expanding around the world, and actually the younger generation are really embracing it. So 15 to 24-year-olds, they are listening to a podcast a week. There's a large percentage of them doing that, and it's growing. So for people who are like either starting their podcast, or they've already got a podcast going and they want to improve the quality of the sound, because obviously that is so key.
Mm-hmm.
Any advice for them? And we're going to just try and keep that quite quick if we can, because we're already going over a half an hour. Okay.
Basically, the podcasting medium requires the same kind of attention to detail as doing voiceover for a meditation or for a video. So there's a whole range of podcasting kits that you can get online that would solve address a multitude of needs. Rode makes one, Behringer makes one, Samson makes one. So you get the microphone on a tripod stand. Blue is another one. You get these mics on a tripod, come with a tripod stand. It's a USB connector, goes into your computer. All right. You can get USB to Lightning connectors too, adapters that will go into your iPhone, for example. So once you got the microphone, usually it's bundled with recording software, like I mentioned earlier. And set of headphones. Now you can actually do professional podcasting. Now there are a number of podcasting platforms out there on the internet that you need to go through, like Buzzsprout, like Anchor, Podbean. Any of these, you have to, that's a subscription service. You have to sign on for a free account, get yourself set up, practice a bit, and then go to a subscription paid account in order to have your podcast distributed digitally across the world. Through Apple iTunes, SoundCloud, any of those. SoundCloud does a platform like that too. But again, it's a jungle out there. A lot of people are offering this. It's not that there's like one or two. There's like 30.
Yeah.
So knowing which platform to work with and what their requirements are going to be, how big a file size, how big your library is, how many episodes of those podcasts can you hold in there, is based entirely on your subscription. But the actual production quality, if you listen to some of these pro ones that are done in a home recording studio, basically even Charlie Booker, who's a journalist for The Guardian UK, he's big, he's huge in the podcasting world. And he started out with nothing but something set up in his bedroom with a laptop, and made it sound good. Now, typically, the only music that's added to podcasts is the real short intro and a little short outro with credits. All right. So you don't have music usually running under the background behind the voiceover during the whole extent of the podcast. But podcasts are going to start getting bigger in Europe and the UK. They've been big for decades now in the US. And so it's not something to ignore as a way to get your message out there and connect with people.
Yeah, and from my side, I'm really fascinated by it because of the traffic. And it's same for me with YouTube. It's like, any platform where there's already traffic, there's already people listening, and you can target your audience using their tagging systems. So it's free traffic. It's kind of like Google, but for podcasts, or, for video, like YouTube videos. It's like that free traffic, people to hear what you're saying, what you're offering, and what you're sharing in terms of your expertise. I think that's always good, because we want to increase that kind of, the automatic leads where you're not having to work as hard and you're not having to spend on advertising.
Right. Yeah, YouTube is great for that, because with the hashtags, you can cross-platform it to Twitter or LinkedIn, or Instagram. Same way with going the other direction. If you go on SoundCloud, it uses hashtags for tracking. So people, your tracks or your podcast could show up in there. So it's cross-dimensional.
Yeah.
And I think it's really helpful to recognize the value of podcasting and how it can permeate across 5-6 different social media platforms, and including YouTube and Instagram and LinkedIn.
Yeah, fab. Great. Well, I think we might have just about covered, everything. I'm just looking to see if anyone's posting any more questions in here about, that they would like answers to, which I can't see so far at the moment. But if you do have a question, if you're listening in and you have a question, please go ahead and post it now. But in the meantime, I'd just like to ask you, Isaac, about your work, that you're doing. Because I know you are doing audio production for coaches, therapists, speakers, trainers. I know that you've been doing a lot of work with clients over the last few years in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to just tell us a little bit about what kind of services people can come to you for, and, how you would support them, what you do with them?
I'll just tell you the process in brief. And that's basically, like I said, once say we'd set up a consultation, a free call, find out what it is you want to create, and what direction you want to go with it. And then I advise, or, if we go ahead and move ahead, you can either do one project or you can do 3 in a package, set those up in advance. And you can either do all the recording yourself with my guidance and send those clips or those tracks to me to work with. Yeah.
Voice recording. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Once I have those, then I see what I can do with it. If it's not suitable or it's too noisy or whatever, I'll say do it again. And then once I've got a track I can use, then I can start developing the music and the whole production. And then you get to approve it step by step. Yeah, I like that music. No, I don't like this bit. What I do with that audio file is I have to go through that entire audio file and looking for any noise any spikes, any clicks, and eliminate them. That's part of the service. And then I put that sheen on it, that honey, okay? But then if you want to record them here, which there is a slight upcharge for, then you come in, you're using my gear. You're using my studio professional guidance. You're using my microphones. That is basically usually a 1 day, perhaps a 2 day affair, depending how many projects you have to cover. But then you're here and actually seeing how we work together, how we do things on the big system, on the digital audio workstation behind me. And music elements don't have to be all pre-recorded. They don't have to be synthesizer based. You can see the keyboard back there. The system I use is loaded with thousands of instruments. Grand pianos, female vocal choirs, male vocal choirs, orchestral instruments, synthesizers, about 10 different synthesizer virtual instruments in here. And I use my own electric guitars occasionally. I have my electric guitar and acoustic guitar. We can add those as elements, music elements. So there's a wide palette to work with here. And so I don't try to say, okay, you have to do it this way. If you want to record the tracks at home, send them in, and then we go back and forth online, that's fine. And then you get the final product, you get the final result to your satisfaction. But that's how the process works. So it's consulting. It's once we have arrived at a plan, then we initiate that plan, and then I see it through, the whole project through from beginning to end with you, whether I'm hand-holding it from afar or we're doing it here.
Yeah, so basically there are a couple of options where people can basically come to you to have their meditations created. They can choose to either do the vocal recording at home, or they can come and do the vocal recording in your studio.
Right.
And you can either add your own customized music to their recording, or you have some pre-made custom music that you've done yourself that's royalty-free. That
I've purchased elsewhere, royalty free that I've purchased elsewhere. So I don't have a huge library of my own bespoke tracks that I can apply. Now the customer VIP option on all of this is that if you want a piece of music done for your presentation, specifically licensed and copyrighted to you, and not to be used in anybody else's project anywhere, then that is also an option.
That's something, so bespoke, where you can compose some music to go in the background.
Yeah, say if you're really ambitious and you want to put a whole CD of music together to stream on an MP3 on Spotify or Pandora or anything like that, or to sell and market through Sounds True, which is the big new age company in Colorado, then you would need a full 60-minute recording, 45 to 60-minute recording. That can be done, but it's a deal. It's like recording an album, these days.
Yeah, but most of your clients, they typically have, meditation is between 2 and 10 minutes long, or something like that.
Yeah, on the top end, about 20 minutes tops. Yeah, but usually a clip will be 2 minutes to 5 minutes, or a full, a moderate meditation, 10 to 15.
Yeah. Right. And if anyone listening is interested in just finding out more about how they can work with you, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Okay. Well, I've given you the direct link to my sales page or my info page at Infinite Wave Productions on my website. So it's isaacgeorge.com. And if you go to the services and consultation tab, you'll find Infinite Wave Audio Production. You can contact me through that. There's actually a clicker on there, a link that you can actually book your consultation call for free.
So I'll add that to the Facebook group for everyone in case you're interested in that. I'll pop that into the group so you can look at, and there's details on that page as well about all of all your work and everything. Yeah,
or just email me at Isaac at isaacgeorge.com.
Okay. Isaac at isaacgeorge.com. Great. And I know that, something that I always ask my guests, and because you're my partner, I've asked you as well. I know that you're doing a special offer for anyone that's coming through my mailing list and my audience.
Right.
So there's quite a very nice discount, a very good size discount. So just mention when you make contact that you are coming through my client nectar, basically.
Yes.
And then Isaac will take care of you and apply that special discount. it's about, what, 20% or something is quite a high.
I think it works out to about 20 or 25% off the whatever the normal public charge would be at retail. Yeah.
So great. That's fantastic.
Thanks for that.
Great. Well, I think we might be there. I can't see any more questions going into the group at the moment. But I just want to say thank you so much. And it's been a real pleasure to interview you as well. Like, you know, it kind of feels kind of strange. We're both in our own little enclaves our interviews, which is really, really odd. Other sides of the house.
I know. Yeah. Just a few steps down the hall. Here we go. No, I really appreciate this. Really, really do, because you're a great interviewer. I've watched your interviews. I've actually, post-produced some of your interviews that you've had with your clients over the years. And it's always a joy to work with you. And I can't wait till we actually start doing our meditations again.
I know. That's something we've been talking about a lot. There's so many projects we want to work on as well.
Multimedia is where it's at. It's so fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that, I know a lot of my audience as well, have a real strong connection with creativity. I know there's a lot of writers in my audience. There's a lot of people who are into creative writing and poetry and, music, and there's some singers here. And, I definitely know that this kind of interweaving of bringing in the creative aspects into the coaching work, into the therapy work, into, just showing another side of what you do to your clients, and supporting them with their transformation through these different kinds of means that you can. It brings a real joy.
Well, it's a humanizing effect. It humanizes the whole thing, to bring in music and fun. It's not just about the serious side.
Showcase to a client, gives them a direct experience of working with you. And what I've always loved with meditations is it's where you can be of support to your client even when you're not there. And that's, for me, that was one of the things when I was a therapist, particularly, that I loved having these meditations that I could give to my clients. And you produced them back then, going 7 years ago. You produced them, and it would help them because they were anxious. It would help them with relaxing, so they'd kind of be listening to my voice when they weren't with me in the sessions. But because it's hard to do it for yourself, I find, and to guide yourself. So it is something that is a really beautiful creative project that that is fun to do, but also can be very powerfully transformative. So in terms of, if you're thinking about it, I'm just speaking to anyone that's listening in, if you're thinking about doing meditation, you're kind of wondering about, well, how does this actually work in terms of monetizing it, I guess. You can directly monetize it by selling the meditations off your website. But also, I used to put them in as bonuses with my programs. So I did that when I was a counselor. I would say, this is a bonus for what you get when you work with me. I'm a specialist in anxiety issues, and therefore you also get my bundle of meditations that are going to support you outside. And it's the same as a coach. You can add it as a part of your bundle. It's like a bonus, add it in, and it makes your one-to-one sessions or your program, it lifts it to another level, because you've then got these extra resources that are direct means of helping your clients have transformational experiences. It's that direct live approach to helping your client have a direct transformational experience. That's what it's offering. So it enhances whatever you're offering in terms of your program. It enhances the value of it. And so you can, basically you monetize it by making it part of a program that you're offering, or you sell the individual meditations themselves, like through your e-commerce site.
Well said.
Well, this has been amazing. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much, Isaac, for being here. And
thank you.
And just a little reminder, if anyone is wondering about getting in touch with Isaac, you can email him on isaac@isaacgeorge.com, and I will be posting the link to his details on his website about his services. So I'll post that onto this onto this post in the Facebook group, or you'll see it if I'm emailing this out, you'll see it in the email as well. And I just want to say also that we will be having more interviews coming up. I've been really talking to some amazing people lately, and I've had a few incredibly quite well-known people sort of agree to do interviews here as well. So I'm excited about that coming up. And I will be keeping you posted. We're looking to try and make sure that every interview happens on a Thursday at 11 live into my Magnetize Your Dream Clients group. So if you kind of work to the assumption that pretty much most Thursdays at 11 there's going to be an interview going on in this Facebook group, and just kind of schedule that into your calendar, then you'll be able to join us live for these interviews. And we have people coming up. We have Altazar Ruster, who's going to be talking about spirituality. And we also have a very experienced sales trainer and sales coach who's going to talk about how to gain corporate contracts and also how to do authentic selling. And that's coming up. And we also have the amazing Adele Stickland, who's a former client of mine, who's going to be talking about launching your book, because her book is just being launched at the moment. I'm going to give it a plug. It's Gorgeous by Adele Stickland. It's just out now, so I'm one of her ambassadors. So I'm definitely plugging her book because she is an amazing health coach and amazing person. So she's going to be joining us as well. So this is all coming up on Thursdays at 11. Okay, wow. Thanks again, Isaac.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
And thanks to everybody for watching and checking in.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for checking in. Hi, Mariah. Yes, do watch this later. Thanks to everyone who's just joined us today. It's a bit longer than we anticipated, but that's always the way with us too. We talk so much. All right, so I'm going to say a big bye to everyone for now. I'll see you again in the group later, and bye to Isaac as well. Thank you so much.
Bye. Ciao, everybody.
Okay.